Astrology time, Shane here, dailyastrocat.com, and today we're going to be talking about, astrology, of course, and it's Thursday the 18th, so let's talk about the moon being in Leo all day long, okay? All of yesterday's positivity, that really didn't go anywhere, okay? But now we're at the point where some of the pain can begin, right? In my case, this pain is going to be quite literal, okay? Physical pain from moving in unfamiliar ways. Hey, that's just the price we pay, right? So it's got to start. You got to start somewhere. So, but it can also be related to work. Or our side hustle, or even communication, okay? We've seen some really awkward communication over the last couple of days on much bigger stages. So, look, Uranus and Gemini, it's kind of a wild card, right? And maybe some strange things they're being said, or maybe some things are being taken out of context, or just whatever. Health issues, they're going to be front and center. Why? Because that's how I like to translate some of the effects of Chiron, okay? Not even the Chiron counts as far as counting towards a void of course or something like that. Chiron's a centaur, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But, what really is happening is that Chiron is in that anaretic degree because it's going to change signs on Friday. And so Chiron will be going into Taurus for temporarily, kind of like the other outer planets. Once it hits retrograde, it will back into Aries. And then the following, probably 2027, will enter Taurus for good for about 7 years. So we're going to get into that because we don't have very many aspects today. We've got that stuff carrying over from yesterday. And I like to talk about bigger astrological concepts when we have days like that, such as, like what exactly is that Leo moon? But we're not going to go into that today. We're going to go into Chiron. So look, guard against head injuries, okay? From now until tomorrow night. Use your seatbelt, okay? And just on the bright side, positive intervention health-wise can bring us closer to our goals. And those goals will be shifting once Chiron enters Taurus. So a little bit of action now. We'll pay you back later. Now, today's keyword is pain, and our color is ruby red. Now, jewel tones, right? That's something that Leos love. So understanding the shift that Chiron is going to make on Friday seems very much like our Saturn mission, okay? Because the moon is actually trine with Saturn today. And so that's kind of like a mission, but it's a helpful mission, right? It's going to help us to see something that we really need to take a look at. So on June 19th, 2026, Chiron will make its way into Taurus. Okay? That's Friday, the 19th. Tomorrow. So, and it's going to stay there until September 18th, and then it will back into Aries again, right? And this gives us a 3-month window to see what's coming. Kind of like what we did with Pluto, with Uranus, with Neptune. So all those outer planets have that longer period. Now, Chiron is a centaur. What's a centaur? A centaur is basically it's an ice ball. It's a rock and an ice ball. It's a combination of an icy object and a rocky object, and it behaves like a comet. So there's a coma that forms around it when it gets closer to the sun. It will begin to develop a tail and a haze. Now, there's a couple different centaurs that are out there, but they're also marked by having a highly eccentric orbit, and I mean more eccentric than even Pluto, which suggests to some that, they might be Kuiper belt objects, but they might also have come from outside the atmosphere, the solar system, the solar sphere. Because they're not on the same ecliptic as the rest of the planets. All the planets kind of line up in the sky because they are at the same ecliptic as Earth and Mars and Jupiter, because they all formed out of along the same plane from the sun, if that makes any sense. So, what else do we got going for us here? Well, we're going to test it out right now. We're moving away from fiery Aries and into some material ground, a solid ground of Taurus. And we're going to pay attention to some themes. And let's talk about some of the themes we're going to talk about. There's going to be a sense of security and resources, all right? Maybe you didn't feel like you have enough. Maybe that's your wound, your original wound, right? Where you just always like, oh my goodness, never had any money growing up or anything like that. And whatever we have around money and what we don't own is asking us to look where we feel shaky or like we don't have enough, right? It's just going to highlight those things and be able to do it. Now, there's also a balance of nature and technology, which we're really going to kind of need to use because with Taurus ruling physical Earth, the importance of our natural world and its resources comes front and center, especially as we get more wrapped up into tech. So that's another one of those things where we can kind of address it, right? And then there's a divine feminine, and our self-worth. Since Taurus is where Venus is most at home, expect a lot more talk about beauty, femininity, and how we value ourselves. And staying grounded, right? Because it's an earth sign. This energy wants us to keep our feet on the grass and take a very practical, tangible approach to our personal healing journeys. Oh, now it gets personal, right? I like that a lot. Now, we should be only taking actions on things that we've previously committed ourselves to. Why? Well, because the moon's also going to be square Mars today, right? So it's not going to be a big day for changes or anything like that. We already have a bunch of changes that are happening, and they're going to happen whether we want them to or not, because like I said, the seasons will keep on going. Mercury may be preparing to go retrograde and stay in Cancer until August 9th, but the seasons will progress. Okay, so what matters most is not what we can accomplish in a single day. It just isn't. We tend to lose that when we do something daily, right? But it's an overall pattern of success. We have to be able to take the good with the bad and look at how the long view of Chiron has intersected with the run-up that I have been describing. Oh, really? Yes. Well, talking about home and security and beauty and femininity and how we value ourselves. Very much Cancer themes, right? We were talking about Jupiter exalted in Cancer. Venus met Jupiter in Cancer. That puts an exclamation point on this, right? Because that's a highly beneficial combination. It only happens once a year. So with that happening, we've got Jupiter in Cancer with Venus leading up to that. Now, sometimes the day-to-day focus can really, it doesn't really provide us with that high-level, top-down view of the bigger picture, but we try to weave it into the narrative as we go along. And that's sometimes where I fail and sometimes where I succeed. So just looking at that and looking at that communication, right? Because the problem is that Mercury is in Cancer and will be retrograde in Cancer, and that doesn't favor the logic. It favors intuition. It favors the unseen and the gut feelings and the vague communications, which I excel at. So, being a Mercury and Pisces native, right? So, we've got sometimes our day-to-day, that's right, the bigger picture. So let's talk about the themes. Clear the themes of home. They're not going to go anywhere because Mercury is going to stay in Cancer for a while, right? Jupiter isn't moving on till the end of the month, so we still have these Cancer things that are rising up, and then we're going to have Chiron going into Taurus, pointing out some things that Cancer can expand upon, and Mercury can help us intuitively decide how we want to begin trying to overcome some of these things or helping others with our knowledge of what it is to be without or to be, or what the knowledge is of the divine feminine or beauty or home or any of those things, security. This is what we're talking about. Now, got two musical things for you, okay? In 1978, President Jimmy Carter hosts the first White House Jazz Festival. Are you kidding? Oh, yes. You want to know what the lineup was? Lionel Hampton, Teddy Wilson, Ornette Coleman, Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach, Cecil Taylor, Zoot Sims, Herbie Hancock, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins, Stan Getz, Chick Corea, George Benson, McCoy Tyner, and Ron Carter. That's one musical event, 1978. It was I think it was to celebrate Newport Jazz Festival for that year. I think it was the 25th Newport Jazz Festival. And our birth is Sir Paul McCartney. Macca. All right, 84 years old. Happy birthday, Paul. Born the same year as my mother. Just a couple months later, right? Well, my mother's in January, so he's British singer-songwriter. Oh, do I have to tell you who Paul McCartney is? Do I have to tell you who he is? Do we have to tell you what he plays? He's a bassist, okay? And he's a singer, and he's a piano player, and he was with a little band called the Beatles, and he wrote a song called Yesterday, and he wrote I Will. That's the samples they give. Tons more. Come on, guys. And he was with Wings as well, his solo project. You know, silly love songs, Uncle Albert and all that stuff, right? So, Band on the Run. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. Junior's Farm, of course. He's born in Liverpool, England. Happy birthday, Mecca. And that's all I have for you. Let me sum it up for you. Today, well, our color is ruby red, and the keyword is pain. Just a little bit, right? Just a touch. Without the pain, you don't get the gain. You got to work it. All right. Today's a 5. We're kind of in a holding pattern. Happy astrocatting.